occasion of your birthday. This lovely lady is not only punctilious, but punctual. Mr. President, Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
The night was August 4th, 1962. A heavy stillness had settled over the Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles. In a modest home at 12305 Fifth Helena Drive, a light remained on. This was the home of a star, a woman known to the world simply as Marilyn. But inside, something was terribly wrong. The silence was not peaceful. It was the sound of an ending. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, felt a growing sense of unease. The bedroom door was locked. A strange, unnatural quiet emanated from within. It was a silence that would soon send shockwaves across the globe, forever marking a moment in time. Alarmed, Murray called Marilyn's psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson. He arrived a short time later, the late-night air thick with unspoken dread. After failing to get a response, he peered through the bedroom window. The scene that greeted him would be seared into the collective memory of a generation. There, on her bed, lay Marilyn Monroe. She was face down, a telephone receiver clutched in her hand. The world's most luminous star was gone. At just 36 years old, the light that had captivated millions had been extinguished. The world would wake up to a different reality, one without Marilyn. On her bedside table, a silent testament to a troubled mind. An array of pill bottles stood like small, silent soldiers. Nembutal, chloral hydrate. The scene was staged almost too perfectly to suggest a deliberate act. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office moved swiftly. The world demanded answers. Dr. Thomas Noguchi, a deputy medical examiner at the time, performed the autopsy. His findings painted a picture of a massive overdose. The concentration of barbiturates in her blood was lethal, many times over. The level of chloral hydrate in her system was also dangerously high. Based on this overwhelming toxicological evidence, the coroner, Theodore Curfey, announced the official cause of death. It was acute barbiturate poisoning. The manner of death was ruled a probable suicide. It was a conclusion that seemed, on the surface, to close the case. The word probable was a small but significant detail. It hinted at a sliver of doubt, an acknowledgement that absolute certainty was impossible. A key piece of evidence was conspicuously absent. There was no suicide note. Marilyn was a prolific writer. She filled journals with her thoughts. She filled journals with her poems. She filled journals with her fears. She wrote letters constantly. For a woman so articulate, so expressive, to leave without a single word seemed out of character. It was a glaring omission, a silent protest against the neat narrative that was being constructed around her final moments. Why would she not leave a final message? The media seized upon the probable suicide verdict. It confirmed the popular, tragic caricature of Marilyn. The timeline of that night is a puzzle with mismatched pieces. The official time of death was recorded by police as approximately 3:50 a.m. on August 5th when they arrived. Yet, conflicting statements from witnesses suggest a much earlier crisis. Housekeeper Eunice Murray's story changed multiple times. Initially, she said she discovered the body around midnight. Later, she pushed the time to 3 a.m. Why the discrepancy? What happened during those missing hours? The first calls for help were not to the police, to Marilyn's psychiatrist, to Marilyn's lawyer. This delay remains one of the most troubling aspects of the case. Then there is the matter of the drugs themselves. Dr. Noguchi found no trace of the distinctive yellow dye from the Nembutal capsules in her digestive system. For someone to have swallowed the massive number of capsules required to produce such high blood toxicity, some physical evidence should have remained. There was none. There was also no water glass by the bed. Swallowing that many capsules without water would be nearly impossible. This suggested the drugs may have been introduced into her system by other means. He noted that Eunice Murray was washing bedsheets when he got there. Clemens said the scene looked staged. Things had been moved. Marilyn's personal diary vanished from the scene. Phone records from that night also disappeared. They were crucial pieces someone did not want found. The official narrative was fraying at the edges, revealing a dark and tangled web of secrets. Beyond the physical evidence, a darker and more explosive layer of mystery surrounded Marilyn's final months. Her life had become entangled with the most powerful family in America, John F. Kennedy. Rumors of an affair had circulated for months. Her sultry, "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" performance at Madison Square Garden in May 1962 seemed a public declaration. She was, by many accounts, infatuated with the president, but to him, she may have been a dangerous liability. He began to distance himself. Marilyn reportedly grew more desperate. Robert F. Kennedy enters the story.
Some allege RFK was sent to California to end the affair.
She kept a little red diary. Friends said it recorded sensitive political information overheard from the Kennedys. Not just pillow talk. It could have included CIA plots to assassinate Fidel Castro, or other matters of national security. Suddenly, she was a potential threat to the Kennedy administration. Several witnesses claimed to have seen Robert Kennedy in Los Angeles on the day Marilyn died. Some place him at her house that afternoon. His official schedule had him in Northern California. This discrepancy sits at the heart of the murder theory. Did RFK come to retrieve her diary and end their relationship? The Kennedy connection turns the case into a political thriller. The simplest explanation is often the most likely. And the simplest explanation for Marilyn Monroe's death is that she took her own life. This theory rests on the undeniable reality of her fragile mental state. Her entire life was a battle against deep-seated insecurities. A traumatic childhood, orphanages, foster homes, diagnosed with bipolar disorder, chronic insomnia, dependency on barbiturates, dependency on alcohol, past suicide attempts. Her personal demons were real, powerful, and relentless. She lived on a knife's edge, and on that night, she may have simply fallen. In the weeks leading up to her death, Marilyn was in a professional and personal downward spiral. She had been fired from her film Something's Got to Give, a public humiliation that branded her as unreliable and difficult. Her rumored relationships with the Kennedy brothers had ended, leaving her feeling used and abandoned. She was turning 36, an age when Hollywood cruelly begins to discard its goddesses. She felt her beauty, her currency, slipping away. A profound sense of loneliness pervaded her life, a feeling that no amount of fame or adoration could cure. She was, in her own words, always running into men's unconscious. There is a middle ground between deliberate suicide and sinister murder. It is the theory of an accidental death. This possibility is just as plausible and perhaps even more tragic. Marilyn was a chronic insomniac, and she played a dangerous game with prescription drugs. She had built up a significant tolerance to barbiturates Nembutal. It often took more and more pills for her to achieve the desired effect of falling asleep. She also took other medications, chloral hydrate. She was known to be forgetful and sometimes confused about her dosages, a dangerous combination. The accidental overdose theory suggests a scenario of tragic miscalculation. Marilyn, desperate for sleep, may have taken her usual dose of Nembutal. When it didn't work quickly enough, she may have forgotten she had already taken them and taken more. Or, in a state of groggy confusion, she may have supplemented the barbiturates with chloral hydrate, unaware that the combination of the two different sedatives would have a synergistic effect, amplifying their toxicity to a lethal level. This was a practice her doctors had explicitly warned her against, but in her desperation for rest, she may have ignored their advice. The most cinematic and disturbing theory is that Marilyn Monroe was murdered. She allegedly knew too much and had become a threat to powerful people. Her little red diary was said to contain explosive secrets about the Kennedys. In the Cold War, that scandal could have destroyed a presidency. So the motive, they claim, was political. She had to be silenced permanently. August 4th was not a suicide, the theory says, but a staged assassination. They point to an alleged visit from Robert Kennedy that day. Some say Kennedy's bodyguards were involved. Others say mobsters acted on the Kennedys' behalf. They claim a fatal dose was given via enema or injection to avoid leaving pill residue. That would explain high toxicity in her blood and no stomach residue. The scene was staged with pill bottles on the nightstand. The missing hours in the timeline are crucial. Conspiracists say that's when the murder and cover-up happened. The housekeeper was involved, Eunice Murray is named, the psychiatrist is accused, Dr. Greenson is named. They were allegedly intimidated or complicit. Marilyn's diary and phone records disappeared. Proof to many of deliberate destruction. Agencies like the FBI and the CIA are accused of covering it up. Over decades, witnesses came forward. What do you believe happened to Marilyn Monroe?